Hang on, folks. Just want to get the board up here so I can see what you guys are saying. So just give me 1 second. And I hope you like the Brady Bunch boxes that I've got. But they only have 9, and I think I have more. So hang on 1 second. And, all right, so let's see. Boxes that I've got. But they only have 9, and I think I have more. So. Okay, so I think we're ready to go. Let me just add a few more folks to the audience. So just bear with me here. Hope everybody had a great day. All these storms are keeping me busy at work. And it's time for a break here, but they keep coming. Hello, Rocco Fridella, Lorraine Griffin, Jennifer Zarilla, Kathy Finn Bennett, Deborah Lee. Okay, so now the box is in front, so I can't see. So just give me 1 second and we'll get this going. Okay, one more. And put that up over there. And I want to also give a big welcome now. We're going to add the SNS Storm Chasers, Storm Chasing audience to all this. Good evening, everybody. Michael Salerno, good evening to you. We had some downpour, by the way, that occurred today. So at least around where I was, it was isolated, but it was very heavy. If you went a mile to the south, it was nothing. Hello from Sarah Parker from Beechwood, from Shelby Sherman in cool Colorado. Snows are flying up in parts of the northern Rockies. Nancy Mangles, Pluto, hello there to you. And Keith M. Johnson, Lloyd McGreevy. Yes, that pop-up thunderstorm did occur. Okay, so you see all the Brady Bunch boxes that are up there, and why don't we take a look at what's going on. So let's go front and center. We're going to start with Hurricane Jose, which is off the North Carolina coast. It's about 485 miles to the southeast of Hatteras, North Carolina, and we'll make it a little bigger. And we will put it up front and center, and you can see it here. It's actually gotten larger in terms of the geography that it's covered. You can see the Bahamas to the southeast. Right in the northwestern corner there, in the upper left corner, is the coast of North Carolina. And if you watch how the clouds are moving, it actually looks as if Jose is kind of taken a bit of a jog to the east. It's around 72 west, so it's already in a position where it would have to really come straight north all the way along with no eastward turn in order for it to have any kind of impact to us. And I think that the trends over the last 24 hours, after seeing all these jogs to the left, all of a sudden we've gotten these moves to the right, and they've been pretty consistent and across all weather models, global weather models, hurricane tracking models, you name it, they have all pretty much been saying the same thing. And in fact, we'll pull up the hurricane tracking models here, and you can take a look for yourself. They are all pretty well clustered together with the motion. And you can't even barely see our coastline, Long Island, New Jersey, and southern New England. There are a couple of models that the ones that are the outliers are the ones furthest northwest. Now, if this track were to materialize, it probably would bring gales to much of southeastern Massachusetts, Long Island, and coastal New Jersey. Most of the tracks are clustered about another 90 miles or so to the east. So I think we'll probably just see really minimal impact from this. And you'll have to be right along the immediate coast. If you're right on the Jersey coast, if you're right on the south shore of Long Island, particularly if you're on the east end in southeastern New England, you're going to get some wind, fringe gales, and that should be about it. I don't think it'll be anything excessive, and it will be manageable. The only other issue, really, because of the fact that we're going into the new moon, is that there could be some coastal flooding problems as we move through Tuesday and into the latter part of this week and toward the weekend, because Jose may linger around. You can see some of these models, after they turn it to the east, some of them are actually turning it to the southeast and southwest. Steering currents are going to collapse out here, so there might be some weird things that it does. I don't know. There are a number of models that take it south of Nova Scotia, where Nova Scotia maybe gets clipped by some fringe rain and gales, if that were the track, and continuing it up to the northeast. And to be honest, even though some of the better global models, like the European, show this really weird loop, and even the GFS shows it too, a very strange loop being orchestrated late this week and this weekend. I'm not really going to go hog wild about it until we get it up to our latitude, and then we'll see what is going on later on this week. But I think we're going to be okay. You can see over the last couple of days too, if you've been following this, let's call it the cone of uncertainty has really shifted away from the coast and has pushed out into the open waters. It isn't even touching eastern Long Island anymore. It's just touching extreme southeastern New England and Cape Cod. And this is the Hurricane Center's official forecast. So I'm not really going to argue again with it. It seems as reasonable as any other forecast that you might see with all this. And when we look at, I'm going to show you the GFS, what's called the ensembles. And for those of you who don't know what that is, the GFS actually has 22 different variations of itself, and each is run separately. And then, you see where their similarities are, you see where the differences are, and you can see there are some really crazy tracks that develop in the long range with these tracks that go back to the Maryland, Delaware coast, and even down into the Virginia, North Carolina coast. The main track that we're worried about now is the initial approach to us, and then it will get to about 38 and 71, and then make a sharp right turn, and then go out to the east. There's an upper trough that's swinging across southeastern Canada, the Great Lakes and southeastern Canada, a weak one, but it's enough apparently to just give it a nudge and send it out over the coastal waters. Most of the models take it out to the east. Some of it bring it pretty close to Newfoundland, but more models, more variations of the model than not have it lingering around. So again, we'll deal with that in a couple of days when we can see what's going on with all this. It's just such a mess when you think about it. There's so much here with all these tropical systems running around. It's just so hard to really keep up. So let's go to the next important one, which I think is going to become another one of these important storms. And this, I think, may also wind up being a major hurricane at some point, is going to be Maria, which developed very rapidly from yesterday when it was a tropical wave and it really looked pretty disorganized. But in the last 24 hours, it has now become a tropical storm. And you can see how well developed it is, and it continues to get better organized. I think this is going to become a hurricane rather quickly. It might do it before it reaches the Leeward Islands, and the Leeward Islands again may be in line for some major trouble here with Maria as it moves on a course to the west, and then eventually it's going to start moving more toward the west-northwest. It's really very well defined in terms of how it looks on the satellite. Rather impressive, to say the least. And I had the model tracks for that, but I guess I must have lost them. So we'll show you the Hurricane Center's track with this. And we're going to move this to the top. And you can see the Hurricane Center strengthens it to a hurricane by tomorrow afternoon. And it crosses the Leeward Islands. It's going to impact all the same islands it did last time, and even islands further to the south. Tropical storm warnings are the islands that are in yellow. And then it strengthens it to the Hurricane Center. And a lot of the intensity models bring this up to a Category 3 or even a Category 4 before it moves over Puerto Rico. And then on to the Dominican Republic later this week. So for Puerto Rico, it looks like it would be on Wednesday. And for the Dominican Republic, it looks like it could be an event for Thursday. So if you've got plans to head to these islands, well, I know the ones that got hit by Irma you can't really go to, but Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, keep in close touch with the weather over the next few days, because it really does look like this is going to become another major hurricane. It will be the fourth one that we've had this year. So let me just show you what the weather models are doing really fast, and bring this up to the top. And we have the GFS here, which we'll start off with. And I'm going to go to an eastern view so you can take a look at how it looks with respect to our own coastline. And this afternoon's run really didn't bring it close. You can see how it goes. It's offshore. This is actually an old run. It keeps always going to this old run. This was the run from yesterday that brought it very close. But the new run, if it will load, please load. And there we go. So here's the new run, and you can see the rain on the new run doesn't even come close. Jose starts moving northeast even sooner than originally modeled. So you know what? It's a good thing. We don't want this to be a problem. And as we roll along through time, I mean, much of this week we're going to be fine weather-wise, but it's still going to be rather humid. We'll start to warm up. We're going to keep having these warm days. You can see Maria at the bottom of the screen showing up next weekend, and you can also see Jose coming back into the picture in the corner. So you can see what I'm saying here, how strange all this is with how these models are handling these tropical systems. Now, you know what? I am not going to really put a whole lot of stock at all into the fact that 10 days from now it has Maria sitting off the North Carolina coast, because that's going to change with every run. But I just wanted to at least give you an impression of just how just crazy all of this is, with all these hurricanes running around, and you don't have. We'll put it on the. I'll put the wider Atlantic on so you can get a perspective for the whole North Atlantic of what's happening. So you can see the two storms back through time. I'll set it back so we can see Maria from the beginning, and you can see it down here approaching the Leeward Islands. You see Jose east of Florida. And then as we roll it along, Jose moves up and out, then starts dropping southward because all the steering currents in the Atlantic are going to collapse. You got this big upper high that's building up over eastern Canada. Maria moves west-northwestward into the Bahamas, and you can see how close they are, with Jose dropping southward almost back to the latitude of Virginia, North Carolina, believe it or not. And Bermuda, by the way, is sitting right in between. That little tiny speck you might see, if you look close enough, there's a tiny little speck in between Maria off the southeast coast and Jose out to the northeast, and Bermuda seems to be trapped right in between in the one spot where it's not being impacted by either storm. So, the bottom line with all this with respect to these tropical storms, and I think we've all figured this out by now, and certainly the experience with Irma tells us this, that the situation's always going to be fluid, and you're going to have to always pay attention to what's happened. Christopher Timlin, models are always changing. We watched Irma, who was supposed to cut to the north sooner to the west coast, and yes, and models will always be changing. This is what they do, and we sit back and basically try to play catch up with all this. It's just the way it is. We have to approach these things expecting a large amount of variability, especially as we go further out in time. And also, we need to understand that we're talking about, a fluid situation, and it always will be. So, thank you, Jesse Chiodo. I've got your 9-year-old interested. Good. So maybe he'll be a future meteorologist. Tell him he's getting in for a tough time. Actually, Jesse Haas, you make a good point with respect. If it was 20 inches with blowing and drifting snow, bring on winter. Well, Jose is actually, in a way, as it transforms to a more of a non-tropical looking system, it actually is behaving in a lot of ways when we get these winter storms that pass by just to the east. I know, Rocco, I don't have enough screens. I need more screens. Marcello Silva, the upper atmosphere is always volatile, and it always will be. Okay, and we just have to remember that. Eduardo Jr. Ferrante, if you push out the Maria model a little further, it comes right at us in New York City. Do you put any stock? No, absolutely not. After 5 days, the variability is way too wide, and it gets wider as you go through time. So it's pointless to even to look at one particular run and say that this is what's going to happen. It doesn't work that way. Ryan Spell, when does the transition occur? Well, it's a process, so it's going to be occurring over the next couple of days. Usually once it gets north of 35 degrees north, once it passes north of the Gulf Stream, you'll start to see it look more like a non-tropical system than a tropical one. But it can take a couple of days for that process. It depends on what else is going on in the upper atmosphere. Leon Probitsky, hello, Leon. I know you were crabbing the other day. I was, trying to do a little fishing this week, but just didn't have time. So I'm hoping to get out there tomorrow. And Marcello, none of this means anything as far as the winter is concerned, and there's no real connection. Holly Schneerman, going to Fort Lauderdale Wednesday night through Sunday. When may Maria be in the vicinity of Florida? Well, it might be in the Bahamas later next weekend, but right now there might be things going on that will keep it from still going west. But if you're headed down there, if it moves over the north of the Dominican Republic and heads to the Bahamas, you're probably going to have to pay attention to it. We'll see how the pattern plays out. Chris Bailey wants to play Lotto. Go right ahead. Quick pick me a ticket, please, and make sure it's the winning one. Okay, so I guess a couple of you are on here talking about turtles. I don't really quite get it, but enjoy yourselves. Effects for New Jersey, Carol Grace, right along the immediate coast. You might get some gusty winds, and the tides might run a little higher. The wind is going to be more from the north, so that should really lessen any coastal flooding concerns for New Jersey, the way it looks to me. Scott Donegan, suffering from hurricane burnout. It's been nonstop since Harvey. It's been almost a month, and it feels like 10 years. And, there's no break because now Maria has, burst onto the scene. And conditions aloft for Maria are extremely favorable for development. Thank you, Robert Smith, by the way, of Garden State Weather. Conditions in the upper atmosphere are extremely favorable for development, and there could be, we may see one of these phases of rapid strengthening going on over the next 72 hours with Maria as it approaches the Leeward Islands. It's sad to say because of what they've been through so far, first with Irma, then a glancing blow with Jose. Irma being the category 5 that it was when it went through there, and Jose was almost that strength when it glanced by. But now they're going to take another one that's going to go right over them. I don't know what I honestly don't know what they're going to do. Yes, Peter Konstantin Romanovsky, extremely favorable. There's no shear. There's a really good outflow pattern aloft, and you've got water temperatures that are sitting in the upper 80s to near 90, just east of the islands. So there's nothing, unless there's something we can't see, there seems to be nothing that's going to stop this from strengthening pretty rapidly. It's been doing it in the last 24 hours to get from a wave to a tropical storm. Tim Monahan, appreciate Voice of Reason amid all the hype and speculation. Thank you. And that's what we try to do here. I mean, you get a no-nonsense approach to weather. There's no need to do what sometimes goes on out there in social media land. You deal with these things as they come. You recognize the fact that there's going to be some change, and you just basically, walk along the path and see what's happening. And you don't deal with things until you're absolutely sure that something is going to be there and cause you a problem. No, Ginny Patty, it is not going to hit Long Island. There'll be some fringe gales that might get here on Tuesday for a little while. But you know what? If you didn't know that there was a hurricane offshore, you wouldn't necessarily know the difference. Gary Meredith wants it to start snowing. I'm not, I'm not following you. I mean, I don't even understand what you're saying. So many storms, a lot of upwelling, colder water. Will that weaken? Well, upwelling has been going on here with the swells that started with Irma making it this far north. That's the water temperatures here are cool. Once you get north of 35 degrees north, that shelf water that's out there is not supportive for tropical storms. It's under 80 degrees. Most of the water temperatures now are down close to 70 or even in the upper 60s. So that's not going to do it. This is far enough out where the water is warmer where Jose is, so it's going to maintain some of its strength as it goes by. But if it were to shoot straight northward at the speed that it's moving, it would weaken before it would get here anywhere. Ryan Ford, good colleges. Okay, you're a junior. Penn State, Florida State, Stony Brook. There's a whole bunch of them out there. If you want to, if TV is what you're doing, Linden State College up in Vermont. If you love snow, that's a good place to go. Oswego. You got a lot of choices out there to look at. So start digging and go see some of those schools. David Fuller asking about Maria coming near us. That's so far down the road. I mean, I have no idea. I really don't. The upper pattern is so convoluted and so bizarre. I have no clue as to what's going to happen. Carrie Ann, hurricane season, the activity of the hurricane season and the subsequent winter that follows are really not related. One really doesn't have too much to do with the other. So you could have inactive seasons followed by warm winters, inactive seasons followed by cold winters, active seasons followed by warm winters, active seasons followed by cold winters, and everything in between. So one really doesn't have anything to do with the other. Okay, so I'm going to end it here. So we're heading over to YouTube, to my YouTube channel. If you haven't been there, I'll be live streaming there at 9 o'clock. Try to squeeze from some dinner in between. So I hope everybody had a great Saturday. Thank you, Leon. Appreciate it. You're just going to buy one of my Blizzard mugs. Go ahead. It's on my Joe Stradamus store, which is on my Facebook page. I got some mugs on there and T-shirts, and help yourselves out if you'd like. So everybody have a great rest of your Saturday. We'll be back tomorrow with the latest of what's going on. And again, I'm on my YouTube channel at 9 o'clock, and I will be streaming on YouTube tomorrow twice. So if you need a lot of weather information, you can get it here on Facebook, or you can go to my YouTube channel. And my YouTube streams are usually scheduled, so you'll see what time they come on, so you can plan your TV watching accordingly. All right, everybody, have a great night. We'll talk to you on Sunday.